Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Gurudev. Dandavat to all. On Gurudev's instructions and by his mercy, today we will study verse 1 of Manah Siksha, the lessons for the mind, by Raghunatha Goswami, translated from Sanskrit and then Bengali too, by Advaita Das, and with the nectar commentary by our dear Ananta Das Babaji. It's a beautiful little work. You've probably read it before or seen it before. Just 12 little verses, but with so much to say about them. And Gurudev asked me to speak about verse 1 today in the absence of our dear Gauravani. It's such a sweet little poem or prayer that there are actually many versions of it, and very many really beautiful commentaries of it as well. There are two in particular that I want to draw your attention to. The one is by Bhaktivedanta Thakur, who translated and commented on it, and then another by Narayan Maharaj, who also made a complete book out of it. And they're both very nice to read and very practical and helpful, which is what I hope to be with you today too. It's like a guidebook in only 12 verses. And if it's helpful, let's remember it's because of the love that comes from Raghunatha Goswami, his desire to help, his compassion for devotees like us who are struggling along our way. We're trying to improve, we're trying to evolve, we're trying to move along our spiritual path. So when I read these verses, I feel so much compassion from Raghunatha Goswami, and then I feel the compassion from his guru, Rupa Goswami, and from Chaitanya, and it makes me feel this really selfless desire we have in our Guru Parampara, right down to our own Gurudev, of wishing us well. This poem says lots of things, but it says one big thing, which is, I want you to succeed in your spiritual practice. I want you to find happiness. I want you to find purity. And this is the message of any guru. All gurus carry this message in their hearts, and often they even say it out loud. So Manah Siksha is a very special book like that already, very full of love, full of compassion, and very gentle to read in that way. You feel just a soft kind of feeling coming through. But there's another way which it is very, very sweet, this book. And we can see this sweetness just in the title of the book. Manah Siksha means lessons for the mind. It's a kind of prayer to the mind. We've read Raghunatha Goswami before, and we've read his prayers. The most famous one for us is Vilapakusa Manjari. And we know he prays from his heart, and he's desiring to come into a higher position spiritually. Well, in this prayer, the Manah Siksha, he's praying to his mind. He's not praying to his guru. He's not praying to Radha like he does in Vilapakusa Manjari. He's praying to his mind. He's giving a lesson to his mind. He's talking to his mind. And he talks to his mind in 12 different times, 12 different verses, and he kind of makes a path forward for how to find success in spiritual practice. And if we needed to make a summary of the 12 lessons, it would be this: how to control the mind. The first step, and unfortunately, the first step is the hardest step, is to control the mind. We need to be able to control our thoughts, to still our thoughts, to direct our thoughts towards good things, towards useful things, in order to advance in our understanding of our soul. Now, it'd be nice if we could have a spiritual practice where you start at the easiest part, and then it becomes more difficult with the years and as we advance. But unfortunately, in spiritual practice, the hardest part is first, and that is controlling the mind. And this is why Manah Siksha is there. Because Raghunathas understands that this is so very difficult, this is so very challenging, and he wants to give some practical advice. We can always have some feeling. This is what I usually teach. Well, we start with our feeling, and then we make that feeling grow. But what Raghunath is reminding us is that in order to make the feeling grow, we need to control our mind. We need to calm our mind. We need to direct our mind to thoughts that will lead our feelings to grow. And that's the purpose of this. We can control our body otherwise. If we want to walk in the street, we tell our feet to make us walk in the street. If we want to put some food in our mouth, we tell our hands to put the food in the mouth. And even more difficult things, like if I want to say good morning with my voice, I can tell my body and my mind to say good morning. These are all just habits. And someone in an advanced spiritual practice, calming the mind is just as the same as breathing with the lungs or walking down the street. When we control the mind, we think only about the things we want to think about. And those things are like the pastimes of Radha and Mohan, and the path of the soul, and the advancement of our voyage into our Swarup, into our spiritual identity. We think about the things we want to think about, and we don't think about the things we don't think about, like the falling stock market or the French elections or the American elections, for goodness sake. And when we control the mind, we remember things that we want to remember. You know how important smarana is. To think of the pastimes of the divine couple, to think about the beauty of Radha Mohan, to remember these things constantly. And we can't do that remembering if our mind is all full of what we're going to have do at the work tomorrow, or what size shoes we need to buy, or whatever it might be. So calming the mind of things that do not contribute to our spiritual evolution, that's the goal of the Manah Siksha. Making the space so that we have Radha Mohan in our minds, so that we have the pastimes in our minds, so that we have Vrindavan in our minds, and nothing else. Because, and I'll come back to this question in a minute, the more our mind is focused, the more our heart will be focused. So there's a definite relation between what we obtain in our hearts and souls and what we obtain in our minds. Just to remind you about Raghunath Goswami, maybe a word. He's one of our, in Mungar Bandir, in Gurudev's circles, he's one of our favorites, Goswamis, one of our favorite souls. He's one of the 6 Goswamis. So the close circle around Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He took lessons from him. And most importantly, he was his servant during the last period of his life, the last 10 years or so of his life, when he was in Puri. And these were the most intense periods. This was the most intense period of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, most intense in terms of his realization, most intense in terms of his visualization of Radha and Mohan, and maybe most intense in terms of his own soul, his own spiritual consciousness taking on the consciousness of Radha and Mohan. And Raghunath Das Goswami was there. So every moment when he was completely in a consciousness of the pastimes of Radha and Mohan, when his whole body was Radha and Mohan, then Raghunath was there witnessing that and helping him and serving him. And writing. He was writing prayers and poems and things. And then when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left the body, then Raghunath went to Vrindavan and to Radhakund, where he then spent the rest of his life worshipping, serving, and having pastimes and having experiences which were a lot like Chaitanya's. So extreme bodily experiences of the Yugala Kishore, visions of the pastimes, and intense longing to be present in the pastimes, to be in his spiritual consciousness. So in a way, Raghunath Das Goswami was embodying what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was. Rupa Goswami, who came before him, was very much understanding it and writing about it and theorizing about it. And so was Sanatana and Jiva Goswami before them. But Raghunath, who was there with Chaitanya and experiencing that, at the end of his life, he was very much feeling it. And when, in the end of his life, he then also felt it. What are the main subjects of Manah Siksha? Well, I already mentioned the subject of controlling the mind. It's called Manah Siksha, lessons for the mind, almost like one part of Raghunath would talk to the other part of Raghunath. I'll come back to this. It's so sweet. So I'm going to give some lessons to my mind. Here, to listen to me, mind, I want you to do that, and I want you to do that, and please stop doing that. So very sweet idea that we can actually be a friend of the mind and ask our mind to do things, and the mind will learn to do them. So he's trying to teach the mind. It's a set of lessons to the mind. And like I said, this is really the most challenging part of spiritual practice. The mind is always restless, isn't it? The mind is always acting like a monkey. And yet at the same time, controlling the mind is really important for spiritual progress. But then there are some other subjects in Manah Siksha. For example, devotion. It talks about how calming the mind is actually the same thing as giving devotion through the soul. So when we've calmed the mind, when we've controlled the mind, when we've taken away all the vibrations from the mind, we're actually in a form of devotion, because then we're in our spiritual form. Then we're in our Svarup. So Manah Siksha is also about what devotion is. And devotion means, first and foremost, having a relation to the divine through not our mind, but our soul. Right now, you and I both have two relations with the divine. We're devotees, so we have some feeling, we have some taste, we have some connection, relation through our hearts and souls. But we also spent a lot of time thinking with our minds about the divine. For example, right now we're in class together talking with our brains about the divine. And this is very good, but it's not the best. The best will be when we do that, have that relation with the divine through devotion, through our hearts. So devotion, what the Manah Siksha is teaching us also about what devotion is. Thirdly, it's teaching us about humility. It actually mentions the line from Shikshastakam about being as small as a blade of grass and as tolerant as a tree. And this is because when we're in the mind, we're in our ego. And this ego of the mind is always false ego. False ego means that I believe that who I am is this mind and this body that contains the mind. And I think that the things I am doing with my mind are the things that I am. I think that if I go to my work and I make a lot of money, then this money is who I am. This is the way the ego thinks. And this is arrogant, because it believes that the ego is taking the position of God. It's thinking that, well, just like God, I can do what I want. I want more money, I can make more money. If I want to have more of a bigger house, then I can have a bigger house. I'm the one who decides. This is my life, this is my body, this is my energy. What I want, I can have. And then in the same way, the mind thinks, well, what I get, I deserved it. If I get a bigger house, it's because I'm smart. And because I'm good. And because I'm wonderful. And these are all forms of false ego. These are all forms of believing that we are God. That we are what we see with our material senses. That we are this body. That we are this computer. That we are these words that I'm saying with my mouth. These are all necessary things, and we can do great things with cars and big houses and money, and we can do good things with words. But we must never think that that is who we are. These are all tools for us. The car, the house, the money, we can't keep them forever. But we can do things for the increasing of our spiritual practice. We can do these things in the service of Radha Mohan with these tools. So the problem of false ego is not that material things are evil. It's that we mistakenly think that they are us. There's nothing wrong with having a car as long as we understand that we are not the car, that we are a soul. We are no material thing. So Manah Siksha is trying in some of the lessons to explain this to us, to help us to understand this. Manah Siksha also talks about association with devotees. We all know about this. When we're together with devotees, our mind thinks about useful and helpful things. And when we're together with non-devotees, it becomes more difficult. It can lead us to distractions. So it's teaching us about that. It's teaching us about chanting, because it says we should keep the name of the Lord in our mouth. We should hear about the pastimes. And then finally, it teaches us about surrender and how in order to be pure in our souls, in order to be ourselves, we need to realize that we are entirely a part of the divine and that we are not divine. We need to surrender. We need to give up the idea that we are masters, that we are God. So that's the things we learn when we're reading this very sweet set of verses. Then one more thing I wanted to share about before we start reading, which I find so sweet, and that is that Raghunath is talking to his mind. I said it a moment ago. It's almost like you could imagine it being on a theater stage. And there would be one person talking to another person. Raghunath, in this poem, he says, "Hello, mind." It says Omana, but actually some translators even translate it by saying brother. I think actually our translator does. He says, "Oh, brother. Oh, my dear brother, my mind." So the first thing we have to ask when we read this so sweetly is, who is talking to the mind? This is a conversation, this book. It's a conversation between Raghunath and himself. Well, who are the two people talking? Well, this is the first question of spiritual consciousness, of soul consciousness. Raghunath is addressing his mind from the position of his heart. Raghunath in this verse is not one, but two. And this means that Raghunath knows fully that he's a soul being, and he knows fully that he also has a mind which can stand in the way of his soul being, and that he can improve his mind. I don't know what your path to spiritual life was, but this was actually mine. Just this. One day I was feeling sad and lost and wondering, and I said to myself, what are you doing here? And then I had this shock, and I realized that I had just said something to myself. And so I said, who are you talking to, Uddhava? Who do you think you're talking to? And who is talking? And then came the realization that there's something more in me and in you than just this material consciousness. When we think about ourselves, we're thinking in part about our soul. When we're thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about a position where we're higher and deeper and more pure and more honest and more comfortable. And in the terms of bhakti, where we're more loving. So soul consciousness doesn't require that we say, oh, I have a soul and I know everything about that soul. Soul consciousness it's enough to just say, I know I'm here. I know I'm here, and I'm in relation to myself. And that relation to myself is one of feeling. I feel something. I'm surprised. I like myself. I don't like myself. I want to grow. I want to change. I want to stop. These are all first level devotional experiences. And this is what Raghunath is showing us in this poem. He's saying there is something called soul consciousness, which is a way of talking with ourselves that lets us improve ourselves. So Manah Siksha is a prayer to the mind, to our own minds. And when it's a prayer to our own minds, it's a prayer from our own souls. And when it's a prayer from our own souls, it's a prayer from the divine in ourselves, because our soul is part and parcel of the divine. We're in material bodies. We spend all our lives in this material world, in our material bodies. But we are souls in our material bodies. So all our material lives, to the day we leave our body and the soul moves on to something else, maybe to some form of liberation, all our material lives, we are a soul and we are material consciousness. And there's a connection between the two. The mind and the soul are connected, but they have different jobs, they have different tasks. The mind is in the physical world, the mind is in the material world and helping us to do things in the material world, to make things and to go places, but also to think and reason and be in society and pay taxes and all the rest. But the soul is there too, and the soul transcends these material limitations. The soul is connected to the divine. The soul is part of the divine, and all through our material lives, it has to live together and work with the mind. Now, the mind isn't the problem. The mind doesn't block our spiritual, the mind doesn't block our soul. The problem is that the mind is ignorant. The mind is blind. The mind is very confused by false ego that we talked about a minute ago, by desire, by attachment. And as long as the mind is blocked by these things, then the soul cannot evolve. But the more it becomes clear, the more the mind understands that it is not who we are, rather that the soul is who we are, the more that the mind focuses on spiritual desires and not material desires, the more the mind focuses on spiritual greed and not material greed, and the more the mind focuses on spiritual attachments and not material attachments, the more it does all that, the more the mind dissolves, becomes transparent. And all that we are is spiritual consciousness. So full realization, full spiritual consciousness, siddha deha, what we call spiritual perfection in the body of spiritual perfection. This is not destroying the mind. This is simply understanding that the mind is nothing. The mind is nothing. Okay, let's start. I'm sorry to be so long. There's so many beautiful topics to discuss, and we'll come back to these. Verse 1 now. I think I'll just read the translation by Advaita Das. And here's just what I was telling you. He says, verse 1, O mind, O brother, I hold your feet and I pray to you with flattering words. So this is Raghunath speaking to his mind. And he's a friend with his mind. He says, Oh, brother, I care for you. I bow down to you. I hold your feet, he says. And I pray to you because I want to help you to become better so that I can go deeper in my soul consciousness. And I pray to you in flattering words, very nice words. I'm about to say lots of nice things about you, my mind. Minds are not evil. There's some places in Eastern thought where you'll learn that the mind is evil. And all that your mind does is evil, and you must stop it or be punished, and we talk about being morally fallen and morally dreadful. And this is not what Raghunath wants. He's saying, Oh, my dear mind, let us be friends. Let us be friends. And let you understand what you are so that I can become more what I am. I hold your feet and I pray to you with flattering words. And now come the flattering words in the rest of the verse. He says, Always give up your pride and develop wonderful love for your spiritual master. The abode of Vraj, the people of Vraj, the saintly devotees, the brahmanas, my initiation mantra, the holy name of Krishna, and the shelter of the eternally youthful couple of Vraj. So he's saying, fall in love with all these things. Oh, dear mind, you're so uptight. You're so stuck in your logics. You're so stuck in your square corners. You're so stuck in the box. Please remember all the beautiful, lovable things that make up who, I want to say we are, you and me, Raghunath, are my mind and my soul. All those beautiful things that make us what we are. And here's the list. Then he makes a list. Here they are. Wonderful love for your spiritual master. Oh, drop your mind and love your guru. There's nothing that can be more beautiful. The abode of Braj. Stop thinking and love Braj. The people of Braj, the Brajvasis. All the souls doing the same thing that you're doing. The saintly devotees. The Brahmanas. Your mantra. Fall in love with your mantra. Feel your mantra love your mantra with all your heart. The holy name. And the shelter of the eternally youthful couple, Radha, Krishna. So he's saying to the mind, stop thinking about these things and fall in love with them. Feel them. Feel them. Take your way. Follow the path they take you on down to your soul. So it's a brotherly love already that he has to his mind, a really caring love. It's not, oh, you mind, you make me fallen. You make me a sinner. You know, the good Old Testament Christian way. You were born a sinner, and maybe someday you'll be good again. It's just the opposite. You were born good. You were born perfect. You were perfect. Now just remember how perfect you are. This is so nice. So he's telling the mind, remember all these lovely things: Guru, Braj, devotees, Brahmanas, the wise men, the mantra, the holy name, loving couple. Soften up and think about these things, and you will be very happy. Okay, now comes some commentary. There's lots of commentary by Anantadas Babaji and lots of quotations from other verses. Oh, by the way, if you didn't see, I sent the text in the Viber. Our dear Tarun Govinda made an edition of Manah Siksha and put it in a PDF, and that's what I sent you. Here's Anantadas Babaji. Although Srila Raghunathas Goswami is an eternal associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he instructs his own mind, which is illuminated by Vishuddha Sattva, pure goodness, right? In the expertise of Braj Bhajana, in this Manah Siksha, for the benefit of all the practicing Raganuga devotees of the world. So sweet. So Raghunath, who's an associate of God, he's a best friend of God. He goes and visits him in spiritual consciousness. He knows him. He was with him. Even though he's right next to God himself, herself, he's taking some moment to talk to his mind for our benefit. Even someone who's so close to God needs to instruct his mind. As long as he's in material body, like we are, and he was also when he was writing this, long time ago, he instructs his own mind. His mind is very pure. It's in Vishuddha Sattva, pure goodness. His mind is very pure, maybe purer than ours, but he still needs instruction. And what does he give him instructions on? He gives him instructions on how to do bhajana, Vraj bhajana. And then finally, he does it for the benefit of all practicing Raganuga devotees. He does it for us. So when did he write this? I don't know, in about 1500? So about 700 years ago, he was already thinking about you and me, about the trouble that our minds would have. And then we'd sit here on a Monday afternoon and think, oh, could I please have some help with making my mind more calm? Huh? So I think even Babaji, even Anantadas Babaji is a little charmed, a little surprised by this, to learn that the greatest of all devotees, maybe, of all the devotees of Radhika, Raghunathas Goswami, he has to take some time and say and instruct his mind. As close as we might come to a perfect soul of all the living devotees, Raghunathas Goswami, and even he needs to take time and reflect and calm his mind. Try to perfect his bhajan. And he does this because he loves us, because of compassion. Because he knows 700 years ago, he knows what we're feeling. And how does he know what we're feeling? Not because he knows us directly, but because he knows what Radha is feeling, doesn't he? He's a Manjari. He feels what Radha feels. And since Radha is in our hearts, we are part and parcel of Radha. Her energy, her Ladani Shakti, her pleasure-giving energy is flowing in our hearts. Then he knows what our hearts are feeling too. He knows our struggle with our minds. He's felt it and he feels us. So it's out of this notion of compassion that he's doing this service of helping with the Manah Siksha. And it also means that we're together with Raghunath Das Goswami, and we're together with each other. We're all experiencing this, aren't we? We're all feeling this. No soul is completely independent. Every soul is bound with the soul of the divine. So in this way alone, just from Atma to Paramatma, from soul to super soul, we are connected with the experiences of Raganuga, Bhakti, or Raganuga Bhakta. And then Raghunath Das Goswami is speaking for us. And this is why he can. So we don't need to ask, how does he know me? He lived 700 years ago. Well, because he's there in my soul, together with Radha. So already this is a kind of instruction to the soul. Just this idea that someone from so long ago, at the very beginning of our parampara, would be knowing what we feel today. Now here's Babaji again. Let's see. When we are able to actually practice these essential instructions in Manah Siksha, they will take us by the hand and bring us to the lotus feet of the beloved deity. When we are able to actually practice these essential instructions in Manah Siksha, they will take us by the hand and bring us to the lotus feet of the beloved deity. The instructions will take us, will carry us. They will take us by the hand, our foolish minds, and they will bring us to Radha, to the Radha in our own hearts. They will take our monkey minds, calm them down, and walk them slowly and gently into the heart of Radha. Following these shiksha, these lessons, we will take the lotus feet of our Radharani. So in a way, the shiksha become our guide. They become our guru. We know that we have several kinds of gurus possible in our lives. We have the guru who gives us Harinam. We have the guru who gives us Diksha. But then this voyage of instruction continues, and sometimes we have what's called a Shiksha guru, someone who is instructing us beyond. And all these instructions have one purpose, and that is to bring us into one focused relationship of devotion with Radha. By thinking the thoughts of Raghunathas, by following his instructions, we find this way to our own hearts as well. So all hearts are individual components of the heart of God. All Atma are part of Super Atma. I was going to say Paramatma. And that means that the way we develop in our soul is developing at the same time in our relation to God. And that's also why he says, Raghunath Das Goswami says, well, in the verse itself, develop a relationship to all these things in your practice. Develop a love to your mantra. Don't just say your mantra like a robot, right? I can program my iPhone to make my mantra, but this is not having a relationship to it. And we can listen to our lovely, the very popular recordings of Gurudev. I have one of Gurudev, and many have Govinda Das Babaji recordings, but we don't listen to them for the Mahatma mantra. We listen to them for the feelings. We listen to them for the beautiful voice, and for the tone, and for the softness, and for the emotions. So the Mahamantra is not good enough as just words. It has to be a love affair with these words. And we have to love our japa, love our mantra. This is what Raghunath Das is telling to us. Everything about them, every little sound and every touch and all. Babaji continues. It is the duty of a faithful and sincere devotee to follow these instructions and to make them a necklace to wear around his neck. Meaning, one should memorize them and always remember them. So when we talk about the duty, we don't mean that someone, like a policeman, has said we need to do this. It's not a rule or a law. It means rather that when we have faith, then we have a longing to do it. We are pushed to do it by something inside us, not by something outside us, not by a rule or by force, by authority or fear. We're pushed by an internal duty, a duty that comes from inside us. And that's what makes us want to take control of our mind. That's what makes us want to soften the mind, fall in love with those parts of our practice. There's logic in everything, but there's also feeling in everything. Babaji again. It is the duty, that was already Babaji again. Here, more Babaji. The main helper in bhajan sadhana, so our practice of bhajan, is the mind, the Lord of the senses. That is surprising, isn't it? That should surprise us. The main helper in bhajan sadhana is the mind, the Lord of the senses. Well, isn't the whole point the heart? Isn't the whole point the soul? Well, yes and no. Question is, how do we come to our soul? Everything we do in our sadhakavesh, everything we do now, you and I, all of us now, in our sadhakavesh, is a communication between the mind and the heart, between the material consciousness and the spiritual consciousness. And everything we do is trying to clear away the blockages of the material consciousness so that we can understand fully the spiritual consciousness. Taking off the clothes of the practitioner. Of course, Avesha, so we're called Sadhaka Vesh, right? Sadhaka means practitioner. What does Avesha mean? It means clothing. So Sadhaka Vesh is wearing the clothes of a practitioner. And once we take those clothes off, we'll become a spiritually pure body. We'll find our siddha, spiritual, pure body. So we use the mind in our practice. We use the mind to memorize our verses. We use the mind to drive our car to the temple. We use the mind to make dandavat before the deities. All these things are the mind, but they let us deepen our relation to our soul and to understand better that our mind is not our soul. I repeat, nothing evil about the mind. What is the sin, what is wrong, is the only problem is that we think we are the mind. When we forget that we are a soul, like Maria Magdalena says, when we forget that we are a soul, then we've gotten lost. So the mind isn't evil, but we need to understand what the mind is and what it is not. And it is not who we are. So there's a constant communication between the mind and the soul. And we see this in every page of Vilapa Kusumanjari, and it's sometimes very mysterious that we see Sadhakavesh becoming a Siddhadeha and then going back from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness and so on. But what we learn again and again is that images of the Vraj pastimes, images of Radha Mohan, images of Vrindavan Dham, the forest, they come into our minds. And then somehow they're awoken in our souls. So we see them in our mind, we remember them in our mind, we think about them. I can make my mind think about the face of Radha. It's very beautiful and very sweet and charming. And when this image becomes clear enough for me, it receives a shape in my soul. The feelings in my soul that correspond to the image in my mind, these grow and grow and grow. So Babaji says, the mind of a materialistic person is by nature restless and attached to sense objects. Of course, we all know this. In order to connect to these mental images, the image of Radha, the images of the pastimes, the images of the forest of Vrindavan, in order to connect with these mental images and grow the feelings that come with them, we need to have a clear and calm mind. So in order to connect with the emotions of our heart, we need to calm the mind and let it do its work. Babaji says that in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says to Krishna, this is in chapter 6, "O Krishna, the mind is restless, disturbing the senses, powerful and tenacious. To control him seems to be as difficult as to control the wind." So the wind in the body, because it's, according to the commentary, it's referring to breathing exercises when we're doing yoga, the kumbhaka and the reka exercise. So even in Bhagavad Gita, we have Arjuna saying just what you and I say every day. Oh my God, that my senses are so restless. Why don't they calm down? They're so difficult. And so Krishna, in Bhagavad Gita still, he answers and he reassures Arjuna and he says, "O mighty armed one, undoubtedly it is very difficult to subdue the naturally restless mind, but it can be accomplished through exercise and detachment." Through exercise and detachment. And how do we do exercise? And how do we do it detachment? With our minds. We do our mental exercises, which calm our minds, and we detach from things with our mind, And these two things then bring us closer to the feelings in our heart. Babaji says, by understanding how powerful and how hard to subdue the mind is, the sadhaka will slowly tread on the path of auspiciousness. Very clever sentence. Listen carefully now. By understanding how powerful and how hard to subdue the mind is, the sadhaka will slowly tread on the path of suspiciousness. Sorry, terrible mistake. Auspiciousness. On the path of good things. What's important here is that Babaji does not say, yes, it's very hard to subdue the mind, get a bigger stick. Or it's very hard to subdue the mind, get more rope. Or get a bigger whip. Or get a gun or something. No, he doesn't say be stronger. He doesn't say fight back stronger against the mind. What does he say? He says, understand. Understand the power of the mind, and then you will advance in spiritual consciousness. There's nothing to beat. There's nothing to kill. There's nothing to be angry about. There's nothing to be punishing. The task is to realize, to understand. It's not a question of who's strongest. The evil mind or the good mind. No. Controlling in our thought means understanding. Realizing means seeing what is. Seeing what is real. Seeing what the mind is doing. Once you see it perfectly, honestly, clearly, then you're free of it. You don't have to beat it with a big stick. You only need to see it perfectly. Understand perfectly. And maybe the result of that understanding is understanding that the mind is not us. The mind tries to make us think it is us, but it's not. Now, Babaji goes into some more detail, and he's talking about how the mind is doing its naughty, mischievous things. He says, any stream of thoughts which emanates from our minds keeps a samskara, an impression or mental image, within our subconscious. And the aggregate of these, the total of all these samskaras, form our svabhav, our nature. So the nature of the jiva. Any stream of thoughts which emanates from our minds, so any thoughts that come from the mind, they're carrying samskara, and they're shaped by samskara. And all these samskaras put together is our nature. Svabhav is the word for nature. It's where we are in our spiritual evolution. It's the path we're on in our spiritual journey. It's our natural taste for devotion. It's our natural taste for love. It's our natural relation to the divine. It's our way of expressing our relation to the divine. This is what Svabhav means. It's who we are in this jiva existence. We're all, of course, eternal perfect souls, but the way we appear in the world is our svabhav. Bhav is a common word in bhakti, isn't it? We've all heard of bhav, but usually it means for us mood or feeling. But it can also mean, like it means here, nature or state. And then it has still another meaning we don't see very often, which is to become. So you can say something is becoming, you say bhavati. So bhav means the way our mood is evolving in our existence. And the way we are in our jiva form, in our material bodies, this is shaped by the samskaras. And Babaji goes on and says, just as our present nature is the result of previous samskaras, our future nature will be the result of present thoughts and actions. By giving up our mundane samskaras, our worldly samskaras, and developing a spiritual samskara, we can gradually control the mind and tread on the path of bhajan. There is no other way. So in our material consciousness, we carry with us all the traces of past experiences. The material traces. In our material consciousness, we carry these traces. But Babaji is saying, in our spiritual consciousness, we also have images, spiritual samskaras. But these samskaras are advantageous. They are part of who we are. They are part of our spiritual uniqueness, our spiritual identity. Making the material samskaras lead us towards our spiritual samskaras, that is what Babaji is calling spiritual path. By realizing the spiritual meaning of our material past and our material present, we become clearer, ever clearer in our spiritual identity. Babaji goes on now. Sri Raghunath very tenderly addresses his own mind by saying, O mind, my brother, I hold your feet and I pray to you with flattering words, please listen. And he uses the word for pride is dambha, which means pride, yes, but hypocrisy. Thinking you're something that you're not. Pretentiousness, arrogance. So then he goes on and says, false ego, deceitfulness, crookedness, these are all considered to be dambha. For innumerable births, our samskara has been the identification with our material bodies and everything related to it. This consciousness is a great obstacle in devotional practice. So if we're carrying our samskaras and we don't understand why we're carrying them, then we'll be blocked from our spiritual path. Realization comes through understanding samskaras, so understanding the material attachments that we have inherited from our previous life, and understanding that they are material, understanding that they are not part of our spiritual self, that part We are here in our rebirth. We're born again into this body because we weren't finished with our spiritual perfection. We were born here because we hadn't realized the meaning of our material blockages, our samskara, our karma. Maybe we advanced some, maybe we understood that material blockage has a role in my life and I understand why it's part of my life and I can let it go. But part of that work I don't finish. So I'm born into another life with that same karma, with that same samskara in my baggage, and I have another chance to try to realize what it means and to let it go. And so on and so forth, from life to life. So identifying ourselves with that material baggage is what blocks us from full spiritual realization. And the more we realize the material things we're attached to, the freer we become. Until the day comes when we're attached to nothing. We realize, we fully understand that I have nothing to do with all this. It was interesting, it was charming to see all this material things around me, but this is not me. I don't miss it, I don't want it, I don't long for it, I don't need it, it's not dear to me. And when I leave it, I won't miss it. That's the moment when I'll be finished with my karma, with my samskara. And then I'll only have the spiritual baggage that I'll take with me. Now comes a small citation from Prema Bhakti Chandrika. The proud non-devotees are the lowest people in the world. Their endless thoughts are all in vain. Oh, my dear. The proud non-devotees are the lowest people in the world. Their endless thoughts are in vain. And why are they so low? Why are they so low? Is it because they're non-devotees? No, it's because they're proud. It's because they think that their thoughts are about them. They think that their idea, their mental idea themselves is whose they are. They think and they look at the passport and say, oh, I'm that guy and I live in that country. And they think and they look at the book and they say, I know that, I read that. And then they think and they look at the house and they say, that's who I am. And then they think and they look at the shoes they're wearing and they think, oh, that's who I am. All this thinking, he says, Narottam Das Thakur, all this thinking is what our problem is. And it makes us the lowest people in the world. As soon as we say, all those things are okay, all those thoughts, they're fine, but just let them go. They're sweet. They're very sweet. They're so sweet. Just let them go. Let them be sweet. Once we do that, says Narottam Das Thakur, and of course Raghunath Das Goswami, once we can let them go, then we'll find our way back to our own spiritual consciousness. This is all pride. That idea I had about a new book I'm going to write, that was so important. As long as I stay with that thought, my day is ruined. That's what he's saying. So the thoughts are making us proud, and the thoughts are keeping us from finding our way back to our soul. Again, Babaji now says, to destroy false pride means thinking I'm that thought, thinking that I'm all these clever ideas that I have, and all these wonderful possessions I have, that's who I am. This is false pride. To destroy false pride, devotees practice humility. Humility is called the life force of devotional practice. This is very difficult for us because in the West, our parents bring us up to think that we can do everything, that we can manage everything, that we can accomplish everything. And if they were being better devotee parents, they would say, there's nothing to accomplish. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to have. Only be what your soul tells you you are. And this humility is what we need. And that is the way a newborn baby thinks. I am what I am. The newborn baby, of course, doesn't think. The newborn baby is. The newborn baby has no reflection. And the moment the newborn baby realizes that the little play toy is not who the newborn is, not the same as her, then the unhappiness begins. The newborn baby says, I am not the play toy. I have the play toy. Therefore, I want the play toy. Therefore, I need to keep the play toy. And when I lose the play toy, I'll stop being myself. This is false consciousness at stage 1. And then give us 50 more years of that thinking, and we are experts at, oh my God, if I lose my hat, I'll be a different man. So this is false pride, and this keeps us away from ourselves, and the answer to it is humility. I am the blade of grass. I am nothing but this soul. I am nothing but what the divine gives to me through this soul. And this is a force. Sorry, I think I'm quoting. No, let's see. No, this is a real power. If you ever, I'm sure you have, met someone who's really keen to have an argument with you, and you just smile, maybe give them a hug. They're completely, it's like winning a war. They're completely immobilized. It's really beautiful. This power is just, it's the power of surrender. It's the power of saying, I will not fight. Because there's nothing to fight for. Everything I need to fight for, I already have. So Raghunath says, sorry, this is Babaji writing now, deceitfulness, so lying, above all lying to yourself, deceitfulness and duplicity, that means acting like you're somebody you're not, like hypocrisy. Deceitfulness and duplicity, thinking one way and acting in another, are other great obstacles in devotional practice. And the reason is simple. They stop us from realizing our soul. They're just distractions. The Lord will never want to bestow his mercy on a crooked person. So a person like that. And it's not because it's good or bad, like in the Old Testament Christian thing. Oh, you weren't good, so I'm not going to give my mercy. It's not like that. It's that the mercy will never flow if you're thinking that you are your car. I mean, what an absurd thing to think. And that you would somehow be less of a person if you didn't have your car. This is a crooked person. And this person is blocked from her soul. Now Baba cites the verse again. This is Raghunath Goswami speaking again. It's a repeat of what we said. O mind, always give up dambha, always give up pride or vanity, which is a powerful obstacle to bhajan, and instead become very attached to some objects. Aha, so now we want to know which objects are we talking about. First, he says, O mind, show great attachment to the Guru. So we can attach to the Guru, to the heart of the Guru, to the love of the Guru, meaning the initiating Guru and the instructing Guru. The Guru is the Lord's Karuna Gana Vigraha, the embodiment of the Lord's sweet kindness. Sorry, Gana is great. The embodiment of the Lord's great kindness, His great mercy. So if we want to attach to something, attach to that love. Not to the Guru, not Guru is not goal, but attach to the love that flows from Guru. If you really want to attach something, don't attach to your play toy, the baby play toy or the big play toy, which is the car. Don't attach to that, but attach to the love flowing from the heart of the Guru. Babaji says, just as water becomes ice when it is exposed to severe coldness, the Lord also appears on earth, assuming the tangible form of the Guru when his compassion becomes condensed. So again, the Guru is not God, Guru is not the goal, but the flow of love through Guru is particularly rich and intense, right? So if we want to attach to something, attach to that love. He goes on now, all the vices which are so hard to give up by one's own endeavors can easily be conquered by serving a Guru. In this way, a practicing devotee can attain perfection and thus become blessed and fulfilled. Then he cites Jiva Goswami, who says the cause of perfection, Moolam, not really cause, but rather the foundation of perfection, the Moolam, which consists of God's grace, is based on the satisfaction of the Guru. By serving him in different kinds of mischief, which are otherwise hard to give up. Sorry, wait, I got that all wrong. By serving him, different kinds of mischief, which are otherwise hard to give up, disappear. And how do we make the satisfaction of the Guru? By giving 100 mangoes, 500 mangoes, 100 cows? No. The Guru is satisfied when we are fixed in our own Swarup. That is how we serve the Guru. By doing our own bhajan, by doing our own sadhana, by fixing in our Swarup, by becoming ourselves. Then the Guru is satisfied, and then we have mercy. Where one more line, I think, watching the clock, and I want to stop at a sensible point. So one more line or two here. There are many kinds of anaratas, vices, sins, such as offenses, which are very powerful, and they hinder the progressive devotee from advancing towards the attainment of prem. And I'm glad to finish on this point, because these anarthas are not moral. They're not right and wrong, good and bad. They're practical. We can only call them bad because they block us from our soul. They block us from becoming who we are. They block us from being fixed in our Swarup. In that sense, they are offenses. But in the way of saying that there's a good soul and there's a bad soul, there's a good jiva and a bad jiva, this I find difficult to accept. So we'll stop there. The rest of the commentary continues with a different subject. So I think it's best that we just leave there.